Welcome to the Roots Revival with Food Prude, where we're going back to our roots and learning old-fashioned ways in a modern world. Hi, I'm Laura Lawrence, and I'm glad you're here with me. Hello, friends. Today we are going to be talking about canning and preserving our fresh beans, which is different than doing dry beans. So make sure you understand that we are picking fresh beans from either a pole, um, trellis, or bush beans. So you could either, like this, what I'm showing right now is my famous purple potted pole beans. And that's a beautiful trellis that I have set up. You can either do it from them or any type of bush beans. So these are your fresh beans. So our first step today for working with these totally underrated superstars of the garden is to go ahead and pick them. And I like to pick them and harvest them about 6 to 8 inches in length. Any longer than that, they start to get maybe a little woody or a little difficult to chew through. And even if you're thinking like, oh, I waited too long and they're like, a foot long, I'm still going to go ahead and can them up, even though they're stringy and stuff like that. Trust me, they will still be stringy after the canning process, even though it went through all that heat and stuff like that. They will kind of be useless. So make sure that you are prudent in going ahead and picking at the correct time and getting them off the vine so they can slow down or stop from growing anymore. And our first step is to go ahead, pick them up, right? And then we're going to go ahead and bring them in the house and give them a nice wash. And I don't use any soap. If you'd like to, maybe use some vinegar to clean it off, depending on how dirty they were. In the trellis system, it's easy. You saw me, I was just able to go ahead and pluck them off, so there was barely any dirt or anything like that. So I just give them a nice quick rinse, and then no need to pat them dry. And the next part is really great for kids to be able to help you with. This is probably my easiest one for kids to start learning how to preserve and can. You can either use scissors or a knife to go ahead and trim just the little tips off where they were connected to the plant. I don't trim the other end, it seems to be just fine. And then you can go ahead and cut them or use a knife. Again, judging your own kids, you could do that, but in half or into little bite-sized pieces, whatever is easier for you. I like take those ones and cut them up into like 3, maybe 4 sections, and then you can go ahead and get them shoved into the jars. Now make sure your jars are clean. If that you can warm them up beforehand, you go ahead, but by the time you chop them all up, it's a little tricky, so I'll give you a helpful hint on that one in just a second. So you're going to go ahead. I like using the wide mouth just because you can get your hands in there. And if you can't, then you can go ahead and just use like a wooden spoon to go ahead and shove them in there. And you can go ahead and pack them pretty darn tight in there. You'll be just fine. And then in the meantime, while you got the helpers helping you with all the trimming up of the beans and putting them in the clean jars, you're going to go ahead and boil water. And so when I've done this in the past, when I can 14 quarts in my All-American canner at one time, I need 10 to 12 pounds of fresh beans, and then I will use about an 8-quart pot with boiling water. So you boil the water, and I let it get down to a lower temperature instead of working with that hot water, just because the jars were sitting there. They can't stay warm the whole time unless you're really quick at everything. And I'm doing 14 quarts at a time, and I'm also trying to teach the kids and get them involved in everything like that. So this is what I do. I lower the temperature a little bit, let it sit there for a while. And this is called the raw pack method. And go ahead and fill up your jars with water, and you're just going to leave an inch of headspace for some expansion. I like to leave an inch of headspace for most of my stuff. And you're going to fill them, and then you're going to put in a teaspoon of salt. I mean, if you want to go low salt, you can. I have gone no salt before, and it was not good at all. And even though I maybe warmed the beans back up and added salt, it still really, really was not good. So I really like to add salt. I use Redmond's real salt. It's not like the sodium that's bad for you. It's actually real salt. So it's actually, in my opinion, pretty darn good for you. I'll leave a link to them so you guys can check them out below as well. So we filled them up with water. Now you're going to use a knife or like this bubbler thing. So go ahead and run it around the inside of the jar just to kind of release any air bubbles that are in there. It seems to really help with being able to seal the jars, get a better seal rate. And then you're going to take some vinegar and put it on a paper towel and just wipe all the rims off. And this point, you will be placing on your lids and your rings after they have been washed. No need to boil them anymore, so you're just going to make sure that they're washed. You're going to place them on, and then you're going to just finger tighten the lid onto the jar. You don't need to don't go hog wild on it and use all your muscles. Just a nice, normal type of thing, and it'll work out really good for you. So don't over tighten it, but don't do it too loose. But once you figure it out each year, you'll go, okay, I know what that made sense and stuff. So just a nice, just normal, don't show off your guns kind of situation. So then you're going to go ahead and fill your pressure canner up. Now this, I'll give you what I do, but you also need to go ahead and read the directions in your pressure canner because it's going to be a little bit different. I put in 2 inches of water in the bottom of mine, and then I place 7-quart jars on the bottom, and then I have a rack that goes in between. So a rack on the bottom, then the jars, then another rack, and then you put another layer of 7 jars. I really like using this All-American canner because I can just get her done and a whole bunch of stuff at one time, and then we're putting up a larger stock. But that is expensive. You can use other kind of canners. A lot have 7 quarts. That is just fine to use as well. I like to go ahead and maximize and just, like I said, get her done. And then you're going to go ahead and process according to what yours says. So I am actually over 1,000 feet. So I use a 15-pound weight, but most people are going to use the 10-pound weight. And then to process a quart jar, either a hot pack or a raw method, which is what I'm showing here today, is for 25 minutes. So this is one of the shorter times to go ahead and do the pressure canner, which works out really lovely. So I hope that helps you out with canning up these fresh beans and the tricks that I have learned. I absolutely love being able to open up a can of beans during the winter and know that they were grown right here on our homestead all organically, and it just feels really good to add that to any side dish. So nothing I have to prepare. There's no plastic liner in a jar from the store. It's just glass, hard work, and cool beans. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions or you need some clarification on something, please just make a comment. I would absolutely love to hear. And thank you for being here. And actually, any kind of comment, not any kind, please make a nice one. I would love to be able to hear from everybody. If you've ever canned before, do you like pressure canning? Does it scare you? Have you ever had any accidents? I have not, knock on wood. Been very successful canning for many, many years of all different wonderful things. And a side funny note about these purple beans is that they end up changing into green when they hit the water. So they're kind of like magic beans. So unfortunately, you're not eating purple beans during the winter, but it's kind of a cool science thing just to kind of watch them slowly change as they get warmed up from the hot water. So again, thanks for being here with me, friends, and I'll see you at the next video.